Hi guys, John Dennis back again with another episode of That's My Story, Bequest Wellbeing. So after the last episode of this That's My Story, where I had a motorbike accident and I had a bit of an awakening experience, then I ended up moving my family and myself to the Central Coast from Sydney. And I was on crutches and that because I'd had a broken leg and stuff from the motorbike accident. And from the awakening experience, it started to stir me up and I was off on compo, so I started reading books on spiritual stuff and well-being and health and things like this. So I started reading a couple of books, and I had a little bit of an amazing experience one time where a book showed up in my bedroom drawer that I hadn't bought and that hadn't got there. I got my son, who was about 3 years old, because I was on crutches, and he ran upstairs. I said, I'll go up to Dad's bedroom and grab the book out of my drawer, the one that I was reading. There was 2 books in there that I'd gotten off somebody else. And he come down with this book, and it was like, it wasn't a book that I put there. And it's like, and he goes, here you go. And I was like, that's not the book, where did that come from? And it was a second-hand book. It had someone's name in it, and it was called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. So I thought, okay, so started reading that, ended up trying to find out where the book came from, never had any clue, it just seemed to turn up. And I asked my partner's sister, who was living with us, and other people, no one had ever seen it before, so that was a little bit miraculous. And that's a book that still I have a lot of respect for, and still sort of have a lot of tools and training out of that book that I use to this day. So this was in 1994 roughly. So I was reading that book and I started getting interested, and I thought, okay, I'll get some more books on health and well-being and stuff like that. So I was on crutches and I sort of was limited to how far I could walk, like staying upright, because it was pretty soon after the operation. And I went to the bookshop with my partner, and I went in there and I thought, I'll get a book on Bruce Lee martial arts, I want to learn martial arts now. And I go in there and I'm going past the spiritual section or whatever it's called, and I stop and there's this book with this lady, like an old lady with frizzy hair, which in my personality back then was like, she looks a bit weird. And it was called Mind to Mind, or Mind Power, The Key to the Universe it was called, by Betty Shine. And so I picked the book up and I look at it, front cover's got a picture on it, and then I read the back and I'm reading a thing, and she's talking about this distant healing stuff and that, and it all sounds a bit airy-fairy to me. So I read the back and I'm like, okay, just snub my nose at it, put it back down. I hobble over to the other section, the martial arts section, grab the Bruce Lee book. I'm like, yeah, I really want this, like read that. And I put it back down for some reason, and I hobble back over to the other section and looking at the spiritual books again, and then I pick up the same book, Mind Power, The Key to the Universe, Betty Shine. I read the back again, I'm like, I've already read that, what am I doing? So, and the book was only like $12 or something, so I put it back down, hobble back over to the martial arts section, and by this time I'm starting to get a little bit weak, because usually after about 20 minutes or so I have to sit down. And so I go back and look at the Bruce Lee book, and I grab that, and then I go back past the other section again, and I pick the same book up again. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I read the book, and back of it again. I'm like, I've already read it twice. I'm like, it's fucking crazy, this stuff. And by this time I'm starting to get a bit faint-headed, right? And I'm like, and I feel like I can't leave. I just can't. And I'm like, so I'm self-talk in my head. I'm like, dude, it's a $12 book. Just freaking buy it. I don't care if you chuck it in the trash. Just get to the counter, pay for the books, and get outside and sit down, because you're going to collapse in a minute. You're getting real sort of faint. And so I end up buying the 2 books, the Bruce Lee book and the Betty Shine book. And I go outside, sit down, go home, and I start reading it that night. Thought, I'll have a little bit of a look through it. So I end up, reading it within a week or something, the whole book. I don't think I ever finished that Bruce Lee book. And so I read that book, and then there was a second version, which was Mind to Mind. I read that, and so I was recovering for a while. And then, read a couple other books over the next year or so, and then it was time to, about nearly 2 years later, it was time to go and get the rods and screws out of my leg from the motorbike accident. And the rods were inside my femur, the screws in the side and that. And I went to the hospital, back to my doctor, and I knew the whole routine. It was supposed to be a one-day operation. They take the rods and screws out, they pull my femur out of my hip, take the rod out, put it back in, stitch me up, and I was supposed to be out that afternoon. And I'd sort of, along the line now, I'd had a couple of little sort of interesting sort of phenomenon, like deja vu things and that happening, but nothing really major. But I was really sort of into this stuff because of the awakening from the motorbike accident. And then I decided to take that book, Mind Power, The Key to the Universe, to the hospital with me for some reason. And I'd had about 5 operations over the previous 4 years, so I knew my pain tolerance, I knew my, how much painkillers I'd have to take, over how long. I'd had 2 arthroscopies on my left knee, and that I was on painkillers for 3 months, and I knew sort of, roughly what I needed to do on painkillers. I was pretty used to that sort of routine. So I go in, I have the operation with my doctor, who was the head orthopaedic surgeon in New South Wales, and he was really good, everything else. And I come out from the operation in the recovery room, and I wake up from the operation, and the pain in my leg is just horrendous. It's like, it was like burning, like it was on fire from the inside out, right? And so I've yelled out to the nurse, and I'm in the recovery room with about 6 other people who are still asleep. The beds are all lined up. I yell out to the nurse, I'm like, nurse, quick, come here, give me the morphine. She comes over, she gives me the shot of morphine, and I wait 10 seconds. I just hold it 10 seconds, usually is when it kicks in. It's not kicking in. Oh, maybe wait a bit longer, 10, 20 seconds. And the nurse is walking off by this stage. The pain's not subsiding, and I'm like, fucking, it's tearing, it's burning me. It's like it was worse, it felt worse than the original accident. I yelled at the nurse, I said, nurse, come back here, quick, come back, it's burning. And it's like, and she goes, what? I said, you gave me the wrong stuff, you didn't give me enough. She's like, no, I gave you the full amount for your side. And I said, no, I know, it should be taken away by now, it's not. And I was like, in this sort of panic stage, and she goes, no. I said, give me some more, just give me another shot. And she goes, no, I can't, I'm not allowed to. And she walked off, and I'm like yelling at her, come back. And she wouldn't come back, and I was in so much pain. I was like, fucking, what am I going to do? And I was like that desperate. I looked over to the guy in the bed beside me, who was just a little bit out of reach, but I was so much in pain, and she was ignoring me, and I knew she wasn't going to come back. So I tried to reach over to this poor guy in the bed beside me just to pull him out of his bed to make her come back to get her attention. And luckily I couldn't reach him, poor guy. But I was desperate. I was like, and I knew she wasn't going to give me anything because she's not allowed to. It's illegal. And so, and I thought, I've got to do something. And I was like I can't handle this pain. It was just beyond bearable. And then I thought about the book, and I thought about Betty Shine and how she said to do this distant healing, weird stuff. It's like, she said, connect the line from the top of your head up outside the earth and go and join the top of her head and join into her healing line or some weird thing like that. And just ask for the healing to come in. And so it's now been about 4 minutes since, and I thought maybe the morphine would take longer. No, because I know it never takes more than 30 seconds because I've had it enough times. And so then I go out of pure desperation. I just go, look, I'm going to try that technique. I was totally at the surrender point, so I'm going, okay. I just imagined this, I called it a telephone line, coming up from the top of my head, out around the earth and going down to hers in England. And as I did that, it's like I just didn't know what I was doing. I just let it, just said what she said to say in the book. And then next minute it was like this blanket. The only way I can describe it was like a blanket of energy just dropped down, drifted down, and just fell over me. And it just took all the pain away, all of it. But not just all of that, it took every pain in my body away. It took pains that I'd forgotten I'd had them for that long, other pains, shoulders and knees and little pains. It was just like everything was gone. I was just like totally pain-free everywhere. It was just bizarre. I was like, and my head goes, well, maybe it was the morphine. It kicked in a bit later. It kicked in like after 3 minutes, after 5 minutes. I'm like, maybe you're just tricking yourself. Maybe it's, mind over matter or something, And so I'm going, okay, just sat with it. I wasn't caring because I was pain-free, so that's all I cared about. And then 2 hours passes, which is when they can give you the next shot. She comes over to offer me another shot. And she goes, do you want another shot of morphine? I said, no. And she goes, well, why not? You just nearly yelled at me before. And I was like, I don't know, I don't have any pain. I've got none. It's like, I know I should have by now, because I know my tolerance, I know it should be here right now. Like by now, usually half an hour before I'm really wanting it. And I said, look, it's not there, I'll let you know if I get pain. And then so another hour passed and she's come over to check again to see if I was ready to go home. And she checked the stitches down the side and they were still weeping blood and stuff. So she said, oh look, I won't be able to let you go home today, you'll have to stay overnight because we can't let you out while it's still weeping. And so I said, yeah, cool, no problem. She goes, do you want another shot? I'm like, no, I don't know why. So they take me up to the ward and they keep coming around every hour or so, asking me, do I want a shot? And I'm like, no. So I had that one shot when I came out of the operation. Normally I have like as many, and then my normal routine would be on like Panadine Fort triple strength for like every 2 hours for the first couple of days, and I knew the routine, what I would normally do. So anyway, get to the night time, go to sleep, still nothing. I'm still bizarre. I'm like, why isn't it? I'm not complaining, but why is there still no pain? And then anyway, the next morning I wake up, they come in, the nurse says, yeah, it's all right. So my doctor comes around. So he's a very logical man. He's the head of New South Wales paediatricians and orthopaedic surgeons, and he sees the book. I had the book out on my bedside table for some reason. And he picks it up, because we used to joke around a bit, picks it up and looks at the title, My Power, the Key to the Universe, and he goes, oh, has a bit of a laugh, and always wondered what that was, the key to the universe, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting. So he puts the book down and he picks the chart up, and the nurse is standing beside him, picks my chart up, he's looking through my chart, and then he puts the chart down and he turns to the nurse and he starts tearing her a new one, mate. He's like, blah, what the fuck, you know, he starts yelling at the nurse, and he's like, the nurse is looking at him and going, what? He goes, you haven't filled the freaking chart out, there's only one painkiller on here after the initial operation, there's been no note of all the painkillers. And she goes, I didn't, he hasn't taken any. And so he looks back at me and goes, what, you haven't had any more painkillers? I said, look, I know, doc. I said, you know, you know what I'm like, I've had to get extra prescriptions off you in the past to get more painkillers. I know I use them a lot, but I don't know. I'm just a layman, but can you tell me, does painkillers kill pain? He's looking at me going, yeah. I said, so if you're not in pain, should you take painkillers? He goes, no. Well, I said, well, I can't explain it. It's the key to the universe, I'm not sure. But I'm not in pain, and I know I should be. And it was like, from then on, and he just sort of shook his head and walked away, and I went home. And from that moment on, basically, I never really got into any real pain again like that. In that sort of way, in that sort of pain. There was other things that came about later on with back pain and that, which I'll continue on with another story, which was kind of different, but it just changed my whole reality. It changed my idea of pain and how it can be caused and how it can be cleared, and it was just like, it was just a total miracle. I was just dumbfounded, and you know, I didn't really tell anyone at that stage because I wasn't really the kind of person who wanted to talk to people about this. So I told my wife at the time, but I didn't really sort of say too much to anyone else, but it was quite miraculous. It was like, and that was basically my first healing miracle that I'd had. And there was more to come after that, and there was more stuff to come over the next couple of years. So that's sort of 3 years after the first miracle experience, first awakening experience. Then I had my first miracle healing, which was spontaneous, which, you know, I call it the surrender point. It seems to be in our life when we get to a point when we just go, okay, and we let go of everything we know, the energy can come through, and it's, I don't know, I still don't know to this day exactly what it is. I know how it works, I know how to receive it, I know how to help people share it, but I still couldn't tell you exactly what it is. But it's just an openness, a surrender to the universe. And so that, I got out of the hospital, went back to work, and then I started my next leg of the journey, so to speak. And you know, that started me really diving in deeply into more of the spiritual books, more of the self-help stuff for the next several years. And that completes this episode. So that's the next miracle experience. Next episode, I'll let you in on another one. And yes, so they continued to roll on little bits, and each one was quite different than the last. And I'll fill you in on more of that in the next episode. John Dennis, Being Plus Wellbeing, thank you.